in the cervix and other pelvic structures. So again, invasive cancer in the cervix and other pelvic structures are your um, is your cervical cancer. So metastasis is usually just within the pelvis, but then through lymphatic spread, it can be metastasized further. Pwede siyang in other areas pa dyan. So cervical cancer just starts in the cells of the cervix, and then they develop slowly over time. But then, as the cells of the cervix, as they go through more malignant changes and more dysplasia, they then spread to the pelvic structures. That includes now your retroperitoneal structures like your ureters, your bladder, your kidneys. So those are the areas in which cervical cancer may proliferate if primary tumor in the cervix is not removed or destroyed. So risk factors are your HPV infection. Cervical cancer is deadly, but is it preventable? Yes. And that is through your HPV vaccine. Your cervical cancer is deadly, but is very preventable now due to your HPV vaccine. And your HPV vaccine is given at the ages of 11 to 12 years old. Then, if ever late jud kayo, it pwede pa siya mo extend from 21 to 26 years old. If 11 to 12 mo magsugo, that's only 2 doses. But if you are late already, you have 3 doses now. So, that's your HPV vaccine. Cigarette smoking, either active or passive, may also cause cervical cancer. And reproductive behavior, meaning mga high-risk reproductive behavior, like having sexual activities with multiple partners. So those could also be risk factors for cervical cancer. Again, HPV vaccine, especially for women, because cervical cancer is very common in women. Please have your vaccines taken. Yes, they're kind of expensive, but again, HPV vaccines have notably decreased and help decrease the incidences of cervical cancer. So please have yourselves vaccinated. That's part of reproductive health. So it's not too late pa. I believe you're within this age group, so you could still have your first, second, and third doses given. That is your HPV vaccine. Assessment, of course, kinamo siya sa cervix, then we can expect bleeding. Vaginal bleeding, postmenstrual or postcoital bleeding may be noticed. There will be foul-smelling discharge, meaning there is an infection in the cervix, perhaps, or in the vaginal mucosa. There may be pain, pelvic, lower back, leg, or groin pain. It's radiating. First in the pelvis, it will radiate to the back, then to the groins. There may be incontinence even because the cervical sphincter cannot close very well. It affects also the urinary sphincters. So there's going to be leakage of urine and feces. Dysuria, meaning difficulty urinating. That's because there's possibly a blockage. The tumor may have blocked the one you see in the picture. The tumor may have blocked the sphincter. So there may be problems with releasing urine as well. Or even because of this tumor and because of the shedding possibly of this tumor, there may be blood in the urine. If you will do your pap test, you can see there mga cytological changes, which could be a assessment finding for cervical cancer. So if we see any abnormality in the pap test, then we proceed with biopsy to be able to confirm the cervical cancer. So this one are the treatment for cervical cancer, which is just in your book. So chemotherapy, cryosurgery. What is cryosurgery? This is the use of liquid nitrogen. So freezing the freezing tissues with liquid nitrogen. That's cryosurgery. External radiation, internal radiation, laser therapy, Colonization is actually just a removal of a small part of the pelvis or the uterus, um, maybe for biopsy purposes or uh, for what we call this one, for curative purposes to remove the tumor. Hysterectomy of um, is the removal of the reproductive organs. That's your hysterectomy. Then pelvic exenteration as well may be done for patients with cervical cancer. So let's proceed with the different types of non-surgical procedure. So ato lang usa-usa ang nasa table there. But laser therapy are used when all boundaries of the lesions are visible. So during pap smear, if the boundaries of the lesions are visible, then laser therapy is greatly used. However, you could notice a slight vaginal discharge um, following the procedure, and healing takes 6 to 12 weeks. After the procedure, usually post-op, minimal bleeding may be expected after laser therapy. Cryosurgery, again, freezing of tissues with the use of liquid nitrogen to be able to cause death of tissues para mag-necrosis siya, tapos mas slow ang cancer cells or cancer tissues. In cryosurgery, usually no anesthesia is required. However, cryosurgery is known to be uncomfortable. A lot of the patient will reklamo nga mura sila like give frostbite kind of thing. There's pain, pain that is tolerable, however, for the patient, but no anesthesia lang is required. So you can just educate patient na there may be stinging or a little bit of pain for cryosurgery if the procedure is cryosurgery. Heavy watery discharge may be expected several weeks after procedure. That could still be 4 to 6 weeks. Napakay mga heavy watery discharge. It is still normal within that span of weeks. Avoid intercourse and use of tampons when the watery discharge is present. Kaya if you put tampons manggod, moisture infection. Then intercourse, of course, because ang acidity, ang pH levels of the vagina will be altered. So at risk for infection ang women. So do not let them perform those activities. Colonization, again, the cone-shaped cervix is removed. So the patient nag-colonization could still have a child, basically. It's just the cone shape of the cervix is removed, not the whole uterus, unlike hysterectomy. So pwede pa na sila they're not infertile, they're not sterile either. So long-term follow-up is needed because new lesions might develop after colonization. Hysterectomy, again, hysterectomy is only indicated if childbearing is not desired. So one of your priority nursing intervention is to find out or to ask your patient if they have plans to have children in the future before hysterectomy. Because if they do, then you have to become advocates of your patients. Kaya if mag-hysterectomy na ang client, removal na siya of all reproductive organs. So, mas sterile na completely ang patient. So that is hysterectomy. Post-hysterectomy interventions would be monitoring vital signs and then assisting with coughing and deep breathing, especially kay either sa abdominal ang incision or sa vaginal. Common ang vaginal, pero napoy other doctors that may still do abdominal nga mga incision. So if na-kay suture sa abdomen, so assist with coughing, so splinting ta, so that dili mag-dehiscence ang sutures. Range of motion and early ambulation will help in return peristaltic movement and flatus earlier. So have that one. Anti-embolism stockings or compression devices to prevent what? Prevents DVT. And then monitor intake and output. Pain medication, please give that one. Please also give pain medications after hysterectomy. Post-op pain meds are prescribed usually. Instruct the client to limit stair climbing for 1 month and avoid hot tubs and sitting for long periods. Limits dark line. Actually, the reason why we do this one, the one I encircled, is just to really avoid dehiscence. It's the reason why we do not do that one. Then avoid strenuous activities or lifting anything more than 9 kilograms. Same with testicular cancer as well. So if we're done with orchiectomy, do not let the patient carry more than 9 kilograms. No contact sports either. Um, and then also instruct the client to consume foods that promotes healing. Your high protein, high calorie diet could be given for patients. No sexual intercourse for 3 to 6 weeks as well. That is for your hysterectomy. Then pelvic exenteration is just the removal of all pelvic contents. All pelvic contents are removed. So for your anterior, what makes that one different from posterior and total is that your anterior is the removal of bladder. This removal of bladder and urethra, but it spares the rectum. That's the anterior pelvic exenteration. Posterior exenteration, it will remove the urethra and the reproductive organs, but it spares the bladder. The total pelvic exenteration is a combination of both. It's really the removal of all pelvic contents. Again, anterior, ang sa anterior iyang remove kay ang bladder, ang urethra, o ang reproductive organs. But the rectum is still there. So wala gi-remove ang rectum. Ang posterior, it will remove the urethra, reproductive organs, and rectum as well, but it will spare the bladder. Or a difference nila. So now, if we have pelvic exenteration, then you will expect that an ileal conduit and a colostomy will be uh, will be made for this patient. Ileal conduit for the urine and colostomy for the feces. Especially if total siya, in which all pelvic contents good are removed. Again, with pelvic exenteration, expect this procedure. Creation of ileal conduit, which is the connection of the ileum to the anterior portion of the abdomen, and then colostomy as well for the feces. That's for pelvic exenteration. Post-op interventions, what you need to remember is just monitor for shock, hemorrhage, and DVT. Then you already know the signs of shock, katong inverted triangle, as discussed. Anti-embolism stockings, compression devices to prevent DVT. Prophylactic heparin may also be prescribed. That is a anticoagulant. So we could also give that one to prevent deep vein thrombosis. Instruct client to avoid strenuous activity for 6 months. Instruct the client that perineal opening may drain for several months, meaning we still have mga heavily vaginal discharge after pelvic exenteration for a few months, and that is a normal finding ra. Provide sexual counseling because vaginal intercourse is not possible after anterior and total pelvic exenteration. So sexual counseling includes any other types of sexual pleasure that will not need penetration for pelvic exenteration, and then external radiation also may be used for this patients. That's for pelvic exenteration. Questions for cervical cancer. Am I too fast? Nasabtan pa ko so far, section F. Okay.
Yes, miss.
Again, thank you. Okay, again, I'm going to be rapidly going through this one na lang. I believe you're given the pages already on the book, so I hope you did read on them as well. So next is the ovarian cancer. This is the #1 cause of death as well in women in terms of reproductive cancers, as ovarian cancers are very deadly. Uh, and the reason why they're deadly is because they are detected very late, because their symptoms are very slow and their symptoms are very vague as well for ovarian cancer. So basically, ovarian cancer is the abnormal cells in the ovaries in the fallopian tube, or even in the peritoneum. So it's a very serious na gynecological cancers. And although it's called ovarian cancer, ang pinaka-common nga site good of the tumor is actually your fallopian tube. So ang pinaka-common nga site in which the tumor grows first is in the fallopian tube. That's your ovarian cancer. They're rapidly growing and they spread very fast. They're rapidly growing and they spread very fast, but their symptoms could be very vague. See, in early stages, it's usually asymptomatic. That's why ovarian cancer is deadly, because detection is hard, and usually if ma-detect na siya, it's already at later stages. Metastasis occurs by direct spread. It could be through lymphatic spread or blood-borne metastasis, either. XLAP could be used to diagnose and stage tumor. So XLAP biopsy, meaning the use of a laparoscope to remove a small tissue or a small cell from the ovaries or the fallopian tube to help us diagnose and stage the tumors may be done to confirm the diagnosis of ovarian cancer. So remember, ovarian cancer is a silent killer. Silent killer because asymptomatic siya in the early stages. So what are our assessment? What you need to remember lang yun is abdominal discomfort. There will be bloating. So bloating, very common. Kanang constant bloating sa patient, that could be a sign of ovarian cancer. There could also be ascites, which is increased abdominal girth, dysfunctional vaginal bleeding, and abdominal mass may be felt as well for ovarian cancer. So again, pinaka-common ka na bloating, ascites, vaginal discharge, bloating, ascites, and vaginal discharge. Mao na sila common nga manifestations of ovarian cancer. So if you notice, vague kayo siya. A lot of other conditions may cause these common symptoms. That's why ovarian cancer is a silent killer as well. How do we stage ovarian cancer? So the same way as how we stage usually. So in stage 1, limited sa ovaries lang. Stage 2, both or one ovaries, the naanay pelvic extension. Pwede naanay tumor build up sa bladder, or pwede naana sa fallopian tubes. So and the like. Your stage 3 involves one or both ovaries, then metastasize outside the pelvis, and there may be inguinal nodes as well. So natay mga inflammation of the inguinal nodes. You can, I know you know the location of your inguinal nodes. If you have ovarian cancer, you will see a significant bulge in the inguinal nodes. Nasya swelling of the nodes in the inguinal area. That is stage 3. And stage 4 may be both ovaries and distant metastasis. Pwede na siya sa lungs, sa liver, sa brain. That is your ovarian cancer. Now let's go to interventions. External radiation may be used if stage 1 to 2 pa siya, but if there's already invasion, like stage 3 to 4, then external radiation may not be as effective. Intraperitoneal radioisotopes may be instilled for stage 1 disease. So basically, a radioisotope that is a chemotherapy drug is instilled in a specific cavity kung asa man na ang tumor. That's the, especially for stage 1, na localized pa ang tumor growth. Chemotherapy is also done post-op for most stages of ovarian cancer. Intraperitoneal chemotherapy is if we will administer the chemotherapy intraperitoneally. So, directly siya sa peritoneal structure. And because directly siya sa peritoneal structure, then mas localized yung effects. That's for ovarian cancer. Then, of course, your hysterectomy. And even your salpingo-oophorectomy may be done to be able to remove the damaged and the diseased nga mga cancer cells, to reduce the instances of proliferation and metastasis. So this is the most common nga mga cervical interventions for ovarian cancer. So again, very high ang mortality rate sa ovarian cancer. So what can you do for this patient is emotional support. Very important ang emotional support. How about if may ascites ang patient? Very important to measure the abdominal girth. And sa may position ani usually sa patient, because remember, if naanay metastasis in the lungs, then the patient may have problems breathing. So semi-Fowlers or even high Fowlers may be indicated for patients with ovarian cancer. That is ovarian cancer. Next is your endometrial cancer, and basically it's just a cancer that starts in the endometrium. That's the inner lining of the uterus. That's more na siya ang musyan during menstruation. Most common symptom niya is abnormal heavy vaginal bleeding, especially bleeding after menopause. If there is bleeding after menopause, then that is an increased assessment finding that there is endometrial cancer. Because remember, kung menopause, wala na bleeding. So if na bleeding after menopause, that is a warning sign of endometrial cancer. Risk factors could be the use of estrogen replacement therapy, that is actually contraceptive pills na may mga estrogen. Nulliparity, PCOS, late menopause, family history could be obesity, hypertension, and DM could be risk factors to endometrial cancer. Basta ang major sign lang niya is bleeding after menopause. That is the pathognomonic niya. A major sign for uterine cancer. Assessment, again, of abdominal bleeding, vaginal discharges. These discharges may be foul smelling as well. There may be low back, pelvic, or abdominal pain because, again, uterine cancer may affect the retroperitoneal structures. That's why there may be pain in these areas. And enlarged na ang uterus, especially in advanced stages. Interventions, we have to minimize or we have to reduce the tumor size or remove the tumors. We have external or internal radiation. Could be in combination with surgery and chemo. Chemotherapy is also used to can be also used. Progesterone therapy may be given because if you remember, ang risk factor sa endometrial cancer is estrogen. So there's just way too much estrogen. Now, if we give progesterone therapy, it may kill mga estrogen-dependent tumors. That's why we can give progesterone therapy. Tamoxifen is an anti-estrogen medication that we could give for this patient. Surgical is the same with ovarian, your tabso and your bilateral pod nga salpingo-oophorectomy may be done for patients with endometrial cancer. So the most common intervention for this one is actually just the removal lang yun of the uterus. If there is suspected na uterine cancer, the patient will be educated about different complications and what will happen. And usually the most common na buhaton sa hospital lately, if na uterine cancer or possibly even just a suspected pa lang, is tabso na diretso para ma-remove na ang whole organs na so that dili na siya mo proliferate. So tabso is one of the most hallmark interventions for endometrial cancer. So that is endometrial cancer. There's post-bleeding during menopause. Now breast cancer. So breast cancer, again, well, from the word breast cancer, the cancer is in the breast. So the malignant cells are in the breast. So they often start in the milk ducts or in the glands. And usually, ang imong manifestation ana kay mga lumps in the mga movable or immovable lumps in the breast. There may even be changes in the breast shape. pwede dimpling or inversion of the nipples, pwede sad, or nipple discharges. Those are mga common assessment findings. So, breast cancer becomes invasive when it penetrates the tissue surrounding the mammary duct and they have irregular patterns. In the breast, there's a lot of lymph nodes in the breast, so the metastasis occurs via the lymph nodes best. And then breast biopsy is usually your diagnostic test. That's your hallmark diagnostic test. Risk factor, age, family history, early menarche, late menopause, previous cancers of the uterus, the ovaries, nulliparity even, obesity and high dose radiation exposure to the chest may be risk factors for breast cancer. So, breast cancer's assessment findings could be a mass felt during self-breast exam. So, um, self-breast examination, just like testicular exams, will be discussed further when you go to level 4. But you can even perform this one, your SBE. Just perform SBE lang yun after your menstruation. Kaya para dili kay tender ang breast. All you have to do is to feel all the surrounding breast tissue for any nodes, movable or immovable. So that's what you can do. And then, presence of lesion during mammography. Mammography, it's not routinely done for women. Usually, routinely done is siya for women 40 years old na. Kaya remember, radiation to the chest will increase cases of breast cancer. That's why, if ever you will do mammography, usually ages 40 years old and above na siya. And diagnostic na siya nga test. Now, we have also asymmetry, which is asymmetry of one breast is higher than the other. There may be even bloody discharges, nipple retraction, skin dimpling, skin edema, or your pudy orange skin. Like literally, murag orange ang breast. If you have pudy orange, you may search that one there. But pudy orange skin, mura siya o kanang orange na skin. Lymphedema of the affected arm. I told you that the breast tissues have a lot of lymphatic fluid and lymph nodes. So, lymphedema may be common, especially if there's blockages in the mammary glands or mammary ducts due to the tumor. Then, symptoms of bone or lung metastasis may be seen in later stages. Kay